Hey crafty friends, Kim from Stamping Imperfection. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I'm doing some really simple ink swatching for my ink pads. Here you can see I've already swatched all my alcohol markers and my colorista pencils. I love having the swatches. They're so handy and I've been surprised how much I use them. This is the swatch set I created for my Catherine Pooler inks. There are a lot of inks in that collection, though they are my all-time favorite inks, hands down, and I just love them. She's got them divided into a couple different collections, so I've divided them into collections there as well. You can see I have a little hole punch, and I think that it is 1 3/8 inches. That's what I use to create these, along with a round solid stamp. And you can see I just hand wrote the names on top of them with a journaling pen. On the back I wrote the name of the collection they belong to and the sub collection from Catherine Pooler's line. And I love them. I love being able to take them off the rings and spread them out on the table and select the colors that way. It's really handy to have. On the right hand side you can see I have another ring. On this one, instead of using a solid circle stamp, I just pulled a leaf stem stamp off my like a leaf frond stamp off a stamp set and use that. I like doing it with the solid circle stamp, and I'll tell you why in a bit. Catherine Pooler has a ton of resources. She's got these collection cards that tell you whether it's in the party collection, the spa collection, the neutral collection, and then what collection is it in within each of those collections. And she's also got a little booklet that you can keep track of what inks you have and what re-inkers you have, so you know what you have and you don't double order anything. That's really nice. She also has a printable color wheel for each collection. My printer wasn't working, so the day I was creating the ink swatches for this and adding a swatch to all of my re-inkers, I just created an extra ink swatch for each color and created my own color wheel using her color wheel. But you can see I just did it by hand. It's very homemade. Once I got all the ink colors on, I laminated the sheet, and then I added the color wheel round with a brad in the center, and it works beautifully. Like, it's really homemade, nothing fancy, but I get to see exactly what my ink pad colors look like on this, and I love it. Like, I don't know if I would get true colors with my my home printer, so this works great. I love having the color wheel specific to Catherine Pooler's collection, so I think that was very clever of her. So you can also see, like, here, these are my close to my heart ink swatches and paper swatches. So I really like having both the ink and the paper swatches for close to my heart, because those are the colored cardstock papers that I use to create with these days, and it's really nice just to have it. It's, like I said, having it on these little rings is super convenient, and I'm just really happy that I took the time to swatch them. So to get started, I've just pulled out it's time for me to actually swatch my Distress Oxides. I've had some of these colors for years and haven't bothered to do it. I did put a little ink swatch, like hole punch piece, on the side of each ink pad, and they're pretty raggedy, so I'm going to fix those up today. And I'm going to do these 5 at a time and get through my whole collection in no time. So to get started, I've got some white cardstock. I've got a clear block with a solid round stamp. I've got my hole puncher, I've got a journaling pen, I've got my ink pads that already have labels on the side. So I've already labeled them. If your ink pads don't have labels on the side and you keep them in an ink pad holder that's vertical, it's really nice to have that label. I will also be using a hole punch. I'll eventually be pulling out some glue and some reverse tweezers as well. So I've got my solid stamp, and I'm just going to stamp each one of these. I'm going to do, like I said, 5 or 6 at a time, and I'm only going to show you the first set. I do also have a microfiber cloth, and I have my distress sprayer, which I'm just spritzing some water onto my microfiber cloth, and I'm going to clean off this stamp. I'm going to use the same stamp for all of the inks. I'm going to clean it off in between each ink color. I'm going to do all the stamping first, so I kind of do it in steps. I'm stamping each one, and I'm not being fussy about them being perfect. They don't need to be perfect. Sometimes it's good to see the white spaces in around the ink, because especially with the distress oxides, we do so many techniques that where we add the ink and then we remove some with water, that sometimes it's kind of nice to see what kind of effect you'll get with that particular color. So I'm going through the grays and starting in on some of the browns here. I'm being careful to keep the ink pads in the same order that I'm stamping these. For these particular colors, it doesn't matter, but I can tell you that when I get to the reds, it matters, because I think there are like 5 different red colors that look exactly the same to me, stamped on my white cardstock. So I want to be very careful to keep them all separated. Not that it would seem like it would matter if I mixed those particular ones up, but it's just crazy that way. So I've got these 5 stamped, and you'll notice I have some foam blender pads sitting there. And with these distress oxides, I really like to store the foam pads on the bottom of the ink pad they go with, because it just works well for me. And I particularly like doing this with the flat foams instead of the dome fold foams, only because the dome folds don't fit that well in my ink pad holder when I do this. But there's quite a little bit of like an apron around the bottom of the pad there, so this works actually really well for me. And I've been doing this for years also. This one, the Velcro came off, so I'm going to add another piece of Velcro. And I just picked up Velcro at the dollar store, and I just trim off like a sliver of a piece of just the one side, the hook side, I believe, and the bottom of the foam pad serves as the loop side. I believe that's the way it is. So that's where I keep my foams. Those two ink pads don't have the foam on the bottom, because I don't tend to pull those out to do some of the distressing techniques as much as I do the blending techniques. So if I haven't used them with distressing techniques, then I generally just use them for ink blending and don't need the foams with them, or haven't used them with foams yet. Instead, I probably use those more with blender brushes. So I've got all these tools out. The next thing that I'm going to do, since I've got my Velcro all set, is I'm going to, you can see I'm just going to punch the pieces out. And I punch the pieces out with the circle punch, and then I do the hole punching. And I'll go ahead and punch these out here. I like to write the name on before I do any of the next steps, so I don't mix up the different ones with the different ink pads. So I want to make sure I'm keeping that straight. Now, one thing that I sometimes do, when I did my Catherine Pooler inks, when I used the hole punch and punched out the hole punch part, I actually used that punched out piece and glued it to the top of my re-inkers so that my re-inkers have a swatch on the cap so that I can see them in the bins. It's easier to pick them out. So I'm just writing the names, and I'm using a gray journaling pen here because I don't like this to journal with, so it works fine for this task. Some of them I write above or around, others I write right over the top. I just need to be able to see the name. I don't care if I cover up the color a little bit. I really find that this works well for me, so I'm just going to do this for all of them. And you can see I'm just handwriting them. I'm not doing anything fancy. I'm not going for perfection because this is a really useful tool. I don't need it to be perfect. I let go of perfectionism a long time ago so I can actually get things done. So once I get all of that done, I punched out the holes, and then I'm going to take that little hole from my hole punch. You can see I've got it right next to, sitting between the swatch and the ink pad. Now I had to redo this part because you couldn't see what I was doing in the video. So I've got all the steps done. I've got the name on. I punched out the hole. Now I'm going to add that punched out bit. You can add that to the top of a re-inker cap, or you can do what I'm going to do in this case. I don't have re-inkers for these. So in this case, I'm just going to, and I've already got this one done, but I'm just going to show you what I'm going to do. I'm going to add a spot of liquid glue with one of these handy little glue sticks. And then I'm going to put that punched out piece on top of that little spot of glue. I don't care if I'm getting glue all around it. It dries clear. I'll never see that glue again. And now when I look at my ink pad sitting on the side, sitting in the ink pad holder in my craft cabinet, I can easily find the color. I've got the name with a label, and if you haven't done the labels on the side, so useful to do the labels. I have a Brother P-Touch, and that's what I used, and it works really well for that chore. So now I just go ahead and add that swatch to the ring. And I got a package of like 10 or 12 of these little rings at the dollar store. They have them in a variety of sizes, and they seem to always have them, so that's nice. So I just added that to my ring, and now I've got the ring with the swatches that I can use for choosing colors, and I can pull them out and move them around on my table to see which ones I like together when I want to do some ink blending. So I love this. You do want to be careful not to get that wet because these are reactive with water. Here you can see some of my Catherine Pooler inks that I have put that hole punched piece on the top of the cap, again with the liquid glue. I keep my re-inkers in containers like this. This container is from scrapbook.com. It does have a lid, but I use the lid for sorting like die cuts and stuff when I'm scrapbooking. I don't use the lid on my shelf. The clear bins, the fridge bins, work really well for holding your re-inkers too. And as long as your bins fit on whatever shelving space you have, that's all you need it to do. And that actually is so useful because I can look down and see colors there. So if I'm looking for a pink color, I can just choose from the pinks that I can see. I don't have to look through every single re-inker. This was really a great task done, let me tell you, along with the color swatching with the inks. So it's really something I'm super happy with. And I'm also happy that I did the same thing with my colored pencils and my alcohol markers because it really helps you choose and color match things really easily. So that's an easy way to swatch your inks. You don't have to have any special swatching tools. Here you can see this is what I used. I used a clear block with a solid round stamp, and really you could use any stamp, but the solid round stamp works really well. I used my distress sprayer with water and a microfiber cloth to clean the stamp off. And again, that stamp is nothing fancy. If your stamp is bigger than your circle punch, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't make any difference. And if you want to get super fancy and label the names with your label maker, or print them out, that's up to you. So you need a circle punch. Mine is 1 3/8. You need some white cardstock. Do it right on the cardstock you're going to stamp on. You need your ink pads. You need a ring, a little bit of a liquid glue, the journaling pen. The reverse tweezers are great, and a cheap hole punch. Mine is from the dollar store, and the rings are from the dollar store. The one thing I don't have out here is the Velcro if you want to add foams to the bottom of your ink pads. The flat foams worked well with Catherine Pooler inks on the bottom, and with the Distress Oxides and the Distress inks. That technique does not work at all for the Close to My Heart inks. I have a whole different system for the foams for that, which I'll share on another day. So that is that, my friends. I would love it if you give this video a thumbs up. If you're new here, I would love it if you click subscribe and click the bell to get notifications every time I upload a new video. And if you're not new here, thank you so much for hanging out with me again today. I really appreciate that you're spending time with me here on my YouTube channel. So thank you so much, friends. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will put links to things below. The things that I can get links for, and I'll put a link to my Close to My Heart shop in case you want to do some shopping. Have a wonderful day, and I hope you find some time to be creative today.